Give them a shot to do what?
We're on the road to WrestleMania. This is High Spot Podcast, HSP on Give Us a Shot Network. I am Jeff Martin alongside and my co-host, the trendsetter, Brian Berga. Follow us on all our social media at High Spot Podcast. Listen to us on all podcast platforms. High Spot Podcast on every single thing you think of. You can't watch us, listen to us, and download and subscribe on all your podcast platforms. But make sure, first and foremost, you watch us here on Give Us a Shot Network. Hit that notification bell, like, and subscribe to the show. Got tons of shows here for you. But if you want your wrestling news, you want your latest wrestling talk, you can come here to HSP on Give Us a Shot. We are on the road to WrestleMania. Like I said, trendsetter, what is going on? So much to discuss as we're now just a couple of weeks away from the granddaddy of them all in Las Vegas and Sin City. And boy, did things pick up this week on Raw, on SmackDown, on NXT as we're on the road for Stand and Deliver. And WrestleMania, it is all WWE as we head into, like I said, Las Vegas in just a few weeks. What's up, man?
Wow, that's the only word I could say. What's going on, Jeff? It's great to be here with you guys, the crew as well. Man, listen, it wouldn't be WrestleMania season if the final weeks leading into it didn't leave you having more questions, but also kind of thinking to yourself, wow, some momentum is picking up, and some things aren't panning out the way you hoped they would have at the same time as well. So excited about it. It is WrestleMania season. It's my favorite time of year, man. Can't wait to talk about it.
All right, so let's get to it. We're on that road to WrestleMania. It's just a few weeks away, and it's picking up. And a lot of people were talking about, is SmackDown too long? And there was some hit or misses with SmackDown as soon as it came to 3 hours. 2 hours was ideal. We had the same issue with Raw. 3 hours is just too long. Sometimes it's just too much. You think that there's a lot of talent, so you can, put matches here all together, and you're gonna a chance to display your talent. But it just, for some reason, just doesn't work. It just drags too long. 2.5 hours, 2 hours 15 is the key. But this SmackDown really, to me, was maybe out of all the SmackDowns since 3 hours, maybe it was the second best or the first best. But I just think that the pace has picked up now as we're heading into Mania, and we found out what the favor was. So let's start with that and the whole CM Punk thing. We found out last week CM Punk was going to headline WrestleMania. He was going to main event WrestleMania Night 1. That's argument for a whole different kind of show if you want to get technical about the main event for WrestleManias. But technically, he is main eventing Night 1 on Saturday, and it's a huge one. And there's no doubt about it that this one had to be a main event. And that is the triple threat between Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. We found out he was going to main event. It was very emotional. And this week, we found out what the favor was. And CM Punk enters the ring in his hometown of Chicago, getting the fans all excited. Thanks to the fans, and the fans went nuts for CM Punk. And then you had the interaction of Paul Heyman. And it came to the point where Paul Heyman was at this point wanting to know what the favor was right before Roman Reigns was to come in. Of course, Roman Reigns is always fashionably late, as the Tribal Chief is allowed to be because he is the OTC. So then we get Seth Rollins that interjects as he comes in to want to see what exactly the favor is going to be. They're all heading down to the ring. You get the interaction between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. We get the gist of their feud and what they're all about. And then comes CM Punk. CM Punk comes out. As Paul Heyman tells these amazing stories, like those behind-the-scenes stories that you just like, wow, man. You just feel like you're in there, and you see the relationship between Paul Heyman and CM Punk, the original Paul Heyman guy, the best friend here out of all the people that Paul Heyman has managed. And the favor is, trendsetter, that favor, that Survivor Series favor was for one time the best friend to rejoin at WrestleMania, to have the Tribal Chief out of his element. And well, it was some cinema, some theater to see Paul Heyman say no to Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns' reaction was like, that's the favor. And he was 100% sure that Paul Heyman would break the news to CM Punk, saying, no, that's not going to happen because my Tribal Chief is my Tribal Chief. But Paul Heyman did not do that. He could not say no to CM Punk. And then CM Punk attacks Roman Reigns while Seth Rollins, at least for tonight, gets the last laugh. And there you go. what is going to happen. Are you underwhelmed, or are you thinking this should have been the favor? This is what we thought it was going to be, or what? Because to me, I was satisfied, but then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, man, this is your favor. I don't know, Trendsetter. Does it leave it a little bit flat heading into WrestleMania, knowing what it is? Should we have waited till the night of or a couple days before? What do you think?
Well, I mean, you kind of answered your feeling towards it. For me, it was more like, similar how Roman reacted in the ring. I mean, that's your favor. To think that I thought the favor was going to be more of a title match if Roman had found himself in that situation, or how Paul could have talked to Nick Aldis in some capacity in his way, which I assumed a lot of people thought the favor was to be a main event at WrestleMania Night 1, which ended up happening. So, yeah, kind of we figured that was going to happen now because of the scenario and how they led up from CM Punk opening the show to the end of wanting to say it to Roman's face, and that it was going to affect him. So that's a scenario here. What it's going to lead to now it's going to be two individuals fighting for Paul Heyman's attention. Like you're fighting for a girlfriend, or for the most popular girl's approval here. That's what it feels like right now. Pretty interesting that it's Paul Heyman they're fighting over, but you understand the main emphasis was part of the promo with Roman and Seth and CM Punk that came in later was loyalty. Who's loyal to who? Does loyalty and friendship surpass loyalty of, someone like Roman Reigns, who claims that he made Paul Heyman relevant again? So interesting. I wouldn't say I was overwhelmed or I was shocked or amazed by it. But again, pretty interesting ending, knowing that we're 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. What's this going to lead to now going forward? I made some comments to you after the show, like, Seth's in there in the ring. What can happen there? I'll talk about that at a later time too, because again, we will be promoting the card and talking about that. I think I'll save it for that particular moment if it does lead to that, or I'm kind of right in my theory. But yeah, a little bit underwhelming there too. Crowd was going crazy because again, they love CM Punk at Chicago, right? But pretty interesting way to end SmackDown.
Pretty interesting way indeed. I thought that we kind of saw it coming. That had to be it. But at the end of the day, I would have loved for the favor to have been, listen, Roman Reigns, you are the tribal chief. You will no doubt find yourself in a title match once again. And I'm no doubt that you will once again become the champion, the undisputed champion. And when that happens, the day that you do, I'm given the first opportunity for a title opportunity against the tribal chief. That would have been, to me, one way to go about it. But like you mentioned, that word loyalty, I think that's going to be more important than any title right now for all men, is loyalty. Where does the loyalty side, and where does it land? Does it land on CM Punk, or does it land on Roman Reigns, or could it land on not even Seth freaking Rollins, but on Seth Rollins? That's how I've been trained now to call him Seth freaking Rollins, but thank God it's just Seth Rollins. But you're right, because there is it's very interesting the way they had Seth Rollins in the background laughing, knowing that this was going to be the end result. Like he knew it was going to go on here. Yeah. And the weaknesses, let's be honest, the weakness of both men, of CM Punk and Roman Reigns, is Roman Reigns might not want to admit it. He don't want to share he doesn't want to share the advocate. He doesn't want to share him. He doesn't want to share the wise man. He doesn't want to share that guy. So it's going to be really interesting.
What's the biggest weakness for both CM Punk and Roman Reigns is the wise man.
The wise man. He is,
so
and who knows? And who witnessed their weakness firsthand tonight or on SmackDown? Who was the first person? Seth Rollins. So that is going to be very interesting to see what happens into WrestleMania. And again, yes, you got one answer to your question, tonight or on SmackDown, but also there's more questions because what's going to be the outcome? Roman Reigns is caught in the middle of the ring with a go to sleep, and CM Punk got the last laugh. Who gets the last laugh next week? And who's going to get the last laugh at WrestleMania? So that is going to be very interesting.
Listen, we could speculate what's going on with Seth Rollins, as we just alluded to, right? There might be a scenario here where Seth is a master manipulator. He's called the architect for a reason in the past, right? Where now he sees where he can destroy both men, right? That's it might lead to towards WrestleMania, which we will dissect going forward. But the interesting thing that CM Punk said that stood with me a little bit too is that he said that he's going to take Roman out of his comfort zone. Well, the interesting thing about that is that Roman didn't seem to figure things out until he was aligned with Paul Heyman. That's where the tribal chief came about. That's where I feel, I'll give credit where credit is due with Roman Reigns, but I'm sure a lot of that enthusiasm, that information, that wealth of knowledge that Paul Heyman has, when people say he's ahead of his time in terms of being a genius in a sense, right, helped Roman along the way. So it would be interesting to say, hey, listen, you don't have your wise man now it's up for you. And we saw elements of it too during this whole bloodline storyline, right, with Solo Sikoa and the wise man going with them, and Roman not having his wise man there. He looked very vulnerable at times. So it's pretty interesting that CM Punk says that, we're going to take you out of your comfort zone, because very few times have we seen Roman uncomfortable in this form of the tribal chief.
This reminds me of and I'm going to reference the NFL here because this happened recently, was who needed who more, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? And this kind of has a little bit here similarities, because who needs who more? Because you mentioned that Roman Reigns really wasn't Roman Reigns until he aligned himself with the wise man. And then the wise man, of course, has seen success with CM Punk, with Brock Lesnar, but it seemed like the most happy that he has been serving his tribal chief. So who needed who more? And if you think about it, when Paul was alone and he was held hostage by Solo, Tama, and the New Bloodline, he was lost. He needed his tribal chief. So that's a great question too. Who needed who more in this relationship? And it seemed like Roman Reigns obviously put Paul down, saying that he saved him. And how it seems that Roman Reigns doesn't want to admit that how much he needs Paul Heyman. And maybe Paul Heyman, in all that scuffle that happened afterwards, maybe he heard those words. Maybe sitting there in the background, Seth Rollins is going to use this some way, somehow, and get the last laugh. Because like you said, loyalty was a main word that they emphasized today on SmackDown. So we'll see what happens there. But very interesting. Obviously, I think that the favor was a little bit underwhelming, but in the storyline wise, it is effective because loyalty will outshine any championship as far as what this triple threat is about. So I look forward to the match. It's going to be a great match. You have three iconic names in the business closing out Saturday, WrestleMania Night 1. So there you go. That is the favor. And we want to ask you guys, too. There's so much to discuss here, but I want to ask you guys, who needed who more? Who needs who more? Roman Reigns, does he need Paul Heyman more, or did Paul Heyman need Roman Reigns? And at the end of the day, is it going to bite Roman Reigns on the fanny for him kind of downplaying the importance of the wise man to the tribal chief? A lot more discussed, trendsetter, and kind of what really put a damper on the whole night on SmackDown was finding out that, let's just first start with the reports that I would say a couple of days before SmackDown, there was supposedly this report, and I'm going to say it's from Fightful, where they said that the wrestler had, depending on the severity of the injury, might have to pull out from a match. So again, people were trying to decipher, and we find out that Kevin Owens was the person that was hurt. But just how bad it was, we didn't realize till Nick Aldis was in there and he had the somber face. And you really don't do that as far as storyline when you're trying to be sympathetic towards a heel. And then he talks about career, and he talks about not taking days for granted and not trying this at home and severity. And you think about Kevin Owens in his couple of matches with Cody Rhodes in that ladder match, and you talk about that non-sanctioned matchup with Sami Zayn. And did Kevin Owens maybe know and tried to just be like, hey, listen, I know what it is, and I might as well just go out in a blaze of glory. But he came into the ring apologizing, and this is what a great guy Kevin Owens is. He's sorry because, A, he can't get in the ring with Randy Orton, and kind of letting the fans down too. And I mean, this timing, it's never an ideal time to be out with an injury, a neck injury, a career-threatening injury, because you don't know if that was your, if your last match was, if you had just had your last match. But it's never ideal. But for him to come out there and apologize to the fans and stuff, I mean, that was crazy. And you, maybe those matches took a toll on Kevin Owens, because that was a lot. I mean, that last matchup with Sami Zayn was crazy, man. And he went all out, him and Sami. And now the question is, first of all, we wish Kevin Owens speedy recovery, and we hope that, that he can come back. But it sucks for him. It sucks for this matchup too. As a fan, I wanted to see Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, and now we don't. and Randy Orton is left without a WrestleMania opponent. We maybe kind of got a hint of who it could be after he RKO's Nick Aldis, of all people, who just told him basically, you ain't got a match at WrestleMania. So with all that, Chancellor, and you're letting it sink in, how much does this suck if you're, to being a fan of Kevin Owens and everything he sacrificed for the business and for us, and then just knowing that we're not going to get this match?
Wow, a lot to dissect there. Let me start by saying this, Jeff. When you and I cover this amazing, call it sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, that we've grown up watching, admiring so much. When you're young, you think these guys, they're superheroes. You're a chance of going on all the time and fight forever, and you just wish they stay young all the time. And they never age, and they never stop, right? In scenarios like this, and very, very similar scenarios, let's say with Edge, listen, I'll be professional here when I say with Daniel Bryan, you see the human side of it, that as much as you love the action in the ring and the storylines, these are human beings. And so you appreciate the sacrificing they do, not only in terms of the travel schedule and the chaotic life that it is, but also the abuse their bodies go through. So with Kevin Owens, it's like the thing I love the most about Kevin Owens, and I still do, I'm not saying him in past tense, is the fact that he gives everything, like he said in his promo. He gives everything he has in the ring, in the performance, whether it be physical or promo, and you feel that from Kevin. So it was really sad to hear that, and part of me kind of wanted to hope and pray that it was, they're pulling a Mark Henry here, where it was like a storyline where this is Kevin trying to avoid, going to a match for Randy Orton because he didn't want to get punted in the head. And I was just waiting for that moment where, Kevin was going to turn, that moment between him and Randy on the apron. I was hoping maybe, Randy walks in and here comes Kevin attacks. It was all a lie to distract Randy. Was hoping for that. That wasn't the case now. So yeah, part of me as a fan, like I said, I was looking forward to this match. I even told you when it happened, like, oh man, that was one I was really looking in terms of how they were going to develop it, because it was building up so well. The history, what Kevin did to him, giving them the pile driver, and then, Randy hearing the voices now. But that's beside the point. It's about the future of an individual who you can definitely tell from before even he was in WWE, loves this business, loves this industry. And so you just hope, like you said, for a speedy recovery. Health is first and foremost. In terms of any type of neck surgery, you're thinking neck fusion now because of, discs in the neck. So, like I said, he's very vague in when he might return or if he might return, especially Nick Aldis mentioned it before he introduced Kevin Owens in. So I just wish Kevin Owens nothing but the best. Hopefully everything goes well with the surgery he's going to get. The quality of life is more important. If he never steps in the ring again, not that I'm speculating that because I don't know any more information, Jeff, than you do. What a career. What a great career. Again, that's not neither here nor there, but man, thank you so much, Kevin Owens. As for Randy Orton, what he did there, and listen, Nick Aldis has been one to say that he's been interviewed several times, them asking, do you ever have the feeling of wanting to get back in the ring? And he's mentioned how happy he is in his position right now, and now he doesn't really have it, but he's hoping to have an opportunity. What?
He wants to get in the ring. I mean, he obviously when
Listen,
he
he's
signed on,
mentioned in interviews before, like it's an easy gig.
Yeah.
You're there. You're not abusing your body. You're not on the road. Yeah, there's no doubt he wants to get in the ring. When is that moment? Could this be it? We'll see, man. It'd be kind of cool to see Nick Aldis in the ring again.
The WrestleMania moment here for Nick Aldis if he gets the opportunity. But again, let me just go back to saying that, seeing Kevin Owens there, and he's the ultimate fan because I love the way how whoever he was rivaling with, he'd get the T-shirt or something related to their rivalry, to their feud. Like he had the Cody Rhodes one, he had the Dusty Rhodes, and today, man, to see him with the Bret Hart jacket. And just to see a somber face. This is a dude that's just like loves this so much, and he's a good dude. And it's just, again, Kevin Owens, we just wish nothing but the best for you. And just want to say thank you, man, because, and for that fan to pull whatever he said, you're a piece of shit. Let's be honest. And if Kevin Owens came out there and dragged you out and beat your face in, I mean, you deserved it because you took away a moment from the guy, because that could have been it, dude. And instead of saying thank you, you had to be a douchebag. So, F off, and there's no place like that. And you make Chicago look bad, because that's a great town. That's probably the best wrestling town. And for one piece of shit to do that, it just sucks for that. But Kevin Owens, we wish you speedy recovery. And hey, Nick Aldis, there's a lot of ways to go with it, but if you go back to long-term storytelling, there's a little bit of issue between Nick Aldis and Randy Orton. And hey, why not, man? Nick Aldis will not listen, Nick Aldis will go down as one of the best general managers that they've had on either Raw and SmackDown. And he's done a tremendous job. I love Nick Aldis in his role. But listen, man, this guy, former NWA champion, he to have one match in WWE and to be a WrestleMania against Randy Orton, man, how can he pass that up, Trendsetter?
No, you're right about that. You couldn't script it a better way in terms of, yes, the unfortunate scenario of Kevin Owens is horrible, but to have an opportunity here to debut your first match in WWE at WrestleMania. Again, we're speculating this. I'm just thinking that's the direction am I going right now, because if I'm looking at the roster right now, it seems like a lot of stories are now set. We're 2 weeks away. Can you build a story going forward there? There is a possibility, and the RKO on Nick Aldis, and you talked about there is a little history between him and Randy when Nick first came in. Let's see. I'm hoping for the best here, because right now Randy needs an opponent. I think that storyline is the only thing that would make sense in my opinion.
And what a reward too for Nick Aldis, who's done an excellent job in that position from day one. His timing was great. The way he deals with the talent, his presence, the way he dressed. I mean, that goes with the presence, but he's just been a tremendous asset for WWE. And what a way to get rewarded. Yes, it's unfortunate circumstances the way it went about. But then again, though, like, congratulations to Nick Aldis. If that is the way they go to, Nick Aldis will get an opportunity, hopefully, fingers crossed, to take on Randy Orton, because Randy Orton's going to get a match at WrestleMania. So you just can't leave Randy Orton off. And think about the long-term storytelling, though. There is a story there. So you can immediately go into it, then give somebody else from the back locker room just to have a match at Mania. 2 matches scheduled are set for WrestleMania. Naomi and Jade Cargill is official. Obviously, this has been stemming for a long time. We're talking about long-term storytelling. Naomi attacks Jade Cargill, and these run-ins of Jade Cargill coming trying to attack Naomi calling her out. To me, this is a great opportunity for Naomi in her heel position, because it just was not going as the babyface role. She's embraced it. She's doing a good job. And Jade Cargill, obviously, their intention was to give her a WrestleMania match. She had been away for a long time, and I think it was just getting her ready for this, because they have a lot invested in Jade. There's no doubt about it. Coming from AEW and just the look, everything that she has, obviously they're invested. They have an investment here in Jade. And to get her a singles match at WrestleMania, you're going to get a lot of women's matches here at WrestleMania. 3 from what I've seen, and for what I see here, and maybe 4, maybe 5. But Jade Cargill and Naomi is set for WrestleMania. What are your thoughts on the build-up for this matchup, and do you think that this is a matchup that's going to deliver?
Am I looking forward to it? No, because I was never a huge fan of the storyline they were going in. That was an excuse to get Jade off TV for whatever the reason was, right? And if this was long-term,
You got to ready, I think, for Mania.
Yeah, you got to get ready for Mania. Do I think it's going to pay off? I do think it's going to pay off, though. Maybe not in the sense in terms of from a storyline standpoint, but I think it's going to pay off because if you're Jade, right, and you're going to get in the ring at WrestleMania, it's not a tag team situation now. Now all the eyes are on you. I'll give credit where credit is due, man. I don't know who would you want to be in the ring with someone from a veteran presence like Naomi, who you know is going to do everything she possibly can to make you look like $1 million. And that's just a credit to Naomi if that ends up happening. But I feel when you have her and Jade in there, they have some chemistry together, and I feel that it's just, again, I'm not buying into the whole scenario of her being attacked and being taken out and the betrayal of Bianca and all that stuff. That does really interest me, to be honest with you. But see, this is a scenario, and what a huge opportunity for Jade to shine in the hands of the help of Naomi doing that for her. So that I'm looking forward to, because
you would say they have a lot invested in Jade.
They do, and because she looks like $1 million, she looks like a star. She carries herself in that persona when you see her on TV. So, again, the biggest question mark has always been the wrestling. But, again, when you put her with individuals like a Naomi at WrestleMania, I feel she's going to be taken care of. And in that respect, I think it will deliver.
Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman delivered. And this is where I think WWE has always been known for the land of the big men and how they handle their big men. And you have 2 very talented stars. And, listen, Braun Strowman is underrated because he's done a great job in pushing Jacob Fatu and making him a star. Let's credit Braun Strowman for the last series of matches that they've had, because they've been enjoyable, and I've been looking forward to these matches. And this last man standing was probably the best one out of them all. where Braun basically made Jacob. I mean, Jacob right now, if you want to, I guess, throw a master class on how to build somebody, it's been Jacob Fatu. I can't say about Solo Sikoa because they've dropped the ball with Solo. He's just become now a sidekick, and it's eventually going to be a sidekick now to Jacob. And Tama Tonga, I'm not a fan of the loss to LA Knight. I think Tama has lost steam, and it's no fault of his own. But back to Jacob, though, he's been made this huge star. He's been booked tremendous, and now he gets a shot at the United States title at WrestleMania. And this is, to me, a very good match. This is an underrated match. LA Knight and Jacob Fatu is going to, I don't want to use the wrestling term of the IWC because now that's the main word now, but I think this is going to cook. I think this has the chance to be a tremendous matchup because LA Knight has been put in a position where you're waiting for him to take that next step. When will that be? When will he get ready? And it seems like getting that U.S. Championship back has kind of elevated him a little bit. There never been an issue with the promo. It's just been like, do they believe? Now the question is, Trendsetter, going into Mania, and we're not going to predict now who's going to win, but do you believe the LA Knight can beat Jacob Fatu? Because in my eyes, it's going to be very interesting what happens here in what happens to LA Knight, because Jacob Fatu is on a roll. I would not want to see that roll, or I would not to see that hindered in any way.
No, exactly to your point, though. The amount of things that Jacob has accomplished since arriving to WWE and the battles he's gone through, and just the level of impression he gives you, not only from an audience standpoint, from an athleticism standpoint, to delivering in promos and just having that presence about him. Similar to how I talked about with Jade, right? There's just something about him that draws people to him. And for that, all the stuff that he's done to showcase that he's this unstoppable force, for that to stop at WrestleMania would be a little disappointing right now. Now, to the other effect of LA Knight, he's been the kind of individual, similar to what you said. Does the company trust in him? Is age a factor? I really don't believe that stuff myself personally. Is age a scenario here? Don't really believe when people make that comment or bring up that argument. But also, it's like, what's going on? Because it really feels with someone like LA Knight, who had a lot of momentum even prior to him becoming the U.S. champion, because the whole biggest thing was, he hasn't won an individual singles title in WWE. And for him to kind of stop and start and stop and start, and it's like, what's going on here, man? It's either now or never. Creates an interesting dynamic with these two facing off at WrestleMania. I think has a tremendous amount of potential, this match. One that I'm really going to be looking forward to, not just in terms of what direction they're going to go in, but how these two are going to perform. I can take nothing away from LA Knight. He's a very good performer in the ring. And with Jacob, man, it's like, I really feel that Solo was, and no offense to Solo Sikoa, because a tremendous amount of respect for him, but I think he was set up to fail. As soon as you brought Jacob Fatu, we don't always want to talk about the internet wrestling community, but as much as people want to think that, WWE is this bubble now, I think the perception's gone now. It's not a bubble anymore. Most of the people know who these individuals are coming in. So maybe a prior regime would be like, we have to reintroduce this person. We have to make them look this, or we have to make them do that. Taking them away from who they naturally are and what got them to the dance, basically, which is the WWE. As soon as Jacob Fatu debuted, everyone, I don't care what town it is, I don't care, it's these types of fans or this demographic, everyone knew who he was, which is a testament to all the work he's done to get to this point. So to me, Jacob is, we've talked about this when he first debuted, he is a star in the making. When I look at him and a Roman Reigns and the potential of those two facing off each other, or just him in general, just separately, that's a main event level type of superstar, in my opinion.
I'm not sure if he did he make his debut in Chicago? I'm pretty sure when Jacob made his debut was in Chicago. I'm not sure, but the thing is about LA Knight is he better with the belt or chasing the belt?
I think he's better chasing the belt.
Yeah, but a lengthy title reign for LA Knight, or putting the title on Jacob Fatu, that's going to be an interesting topic and to discuss as we head into WrestleMania. Again, too, that is going to be very, very interesting. We have to make our predictions on who's going to win that match, but we'll see where we lean on in a couple of weeks. But two matches officially made for WrestleMania, and one match, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. That's because Kevin Owens, of course, finding out on SmackDown that he needs to have neck surgery and will be out of WrestleMania, and he's going to be out for a while, and hopefully he does come back. But then again, we just don't know. You talked about fans knowing who people are. We're not living in a bubble anymore. Well, I'll be honest with you. Chicago fans, if there's any time you're going to debut, and I think the question was when to debut him, and you've seen the vignettes, Trendsetter. I'm not going to lie. We know Aleister Black is coming back soon, most likely after WrestleMania. We know that Miro is re-signed with WWE. He is coming back. Rusev Day, and imagine he signs on Rusev Day. That's crazy, right? So he signs. He's coming back. You have all these guys coming back, and then you're thinking about, oh, yeah, Rey Fenix is debuting on SmackDown. So this was obviously another no-brainer and something that obviously was, it was going to happen inevitably once Rey Fenix was able to get out of AEW in the contract. Makes his debut. Guy looks like a star. Guy looks like he hit the gym. I think they said 182, 188, whatever that, but he looked cut up. And it like I said, it defeats Nathan Frazier. I think as soon as people found out, and Russell Vote's on point with all these breaking stuff, whatever like that. And if you really want to follow somebody or want to get spoilers or be in the know, yeah, Russell Votes is amazing. They're tremendous, and they said earlier on the day that it's gonna be Nathan Frazier. Everybody went nuts because these guys are gonna put up a great match, and it was. And Rey Fenix then after that, very emotional, excited to be in WWE. Listen, I've been wrong before. But the merchandise is off the hook. They sell the masks. They do it for Penta. The brothers are on separate brands, which is fine because you don't have to put them together right away. You have that whole storyline where they can become a tag team down the road or when you have the draft or afterwards and you put them together. But for now, they're going for individual success, which is fine. I really find it hard to believe for WWE can drop the ball on a guy like Rey Fenix and Penta. I've been wrong before. Yeah. But I find it very hard to believe that with WWE's machine and the way that Triple H is booking and the way he's deciding to give these guys a push, the entrances are amazing, the in-ring work, they're not going to have to do these crazy stuff that they were doing in AEW. There's long-term success for Lucha Libre superstars, for Mexican wrestlers. And if they're going to have a PLE in 2025 or 2026, it's a good idea to start pushing these guys to main event levels, whether it's the IC title, the US title, wherever you see these two guys. You need to really invest in them because they are the future if you're going to go international. But again, I was very impressed with Rey Fenix's debut. Very impressive. Wants to be there. Is hungry. And we'll see. But I would say a very successful first debut for Rey Fenix.
Well, I think it was very simplistic in terms of his promo after the match. Like he's saying that this crowd, this audience, this town knows who he is. From all the things he's done in his career in AEW to this point now, just really happy for the guy. Really am. I mean, you've seen him and Penta and what they've gone through in terms of their careers. I'm not talking about just AEW. And to get to this point, happy for the guy. How could you not, just as a wrestling fan, be happy for these individuals? I think it's smart because I think initially WWE wanted to bring them together, but then when AEW decided to keep Rey Fenix and extend his contract or delay his debut with WWE, I think, believe it or not, AEW did them a favor because you knew initially they're probably going to be brought in as a tag team. And my biggest fear is always when that happens, it limits because once you've done that run, one person's always the odd man out. Now I think these two can be individual stars on their own at a certain level. Why not start them off that way? Have them on separate shows because, like you said before, you can always go back to the tag team. If there's a scenario now where you need more depth in the tag team division as they're slowly trying to build up the tag team division on both shows. Hey, let's put the Lucha Brothers back together, right? And I think that would be a special moment when I think eventually that does happen. But let's see if these two can stand on their own 2 feet, which I think right now, the way they're being promoted, the way, we see where Penta's being booked in the direction they're going with him. We see this match, and now see where they're going to go with Rey Fenix. I think there's a possibility too. And this is an amazing problem. Like I wish so badly, like I had this kind of roster to deal with because you signed Rusev / Miro. Aleister Black is eventually coming back now. It's like, wow, the amount of talent here. And then listen, we start off complaining like a 3-hour show. What if you're going to give me a 3-hour show, you better give me all these individuals too, because it's like, it's a scenario where, like, where do you put these individuals? So if you're gonna have 3-hour, 4-hour shows, I'm not giving WWE any ideas.
I'll tell you
Please do
4
not
hours.
give us a 4-hour show. I know I'm just saying that.
I'm not giving them an
Please do
idea.
not give us a 4-hour show, but you have the talent to showcase that. And like I said, an amazing problem to have, though. So for Ray, completely happy for him. Very passionate promo. Match was never a question to me if the match was going to be good or bad. Always had trust that was going to be good. And to me, it's just like sky's the limit right now. If you're WWE, this roster is great for international presence. Like you said, they've been talking about, rumors been going on. They want to have a PLE in Mexico. What great opportunity you have here to also touch that international audience that they haven't touched yet. I mean, they do visits there. They do, house shows there,
They're
but
dying for it
PLE,
too. Yeah.
they want it badly, especially these last couple of weeks where the WWE has been international for Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that. I mean, it makes business sense to do that.
Oh my God, you talk about the time, man. Waiting for 8 o'clock was crazy this time. I used to I know it was going on at 3, 4 o'clock, and boom, by the time we would come on, we'd have everything ready. And now waiting until 8 o'clock was weird. But yeah, they're back in the States now. And next week in Seattle, you're going to see Ray Phoenix against Umberto. So that's going to be Berto, whatever you want to call him nowadays, whatever. But he's going to be in the ring. So that's going to be another good match, man, because he can cook too. I mean, I don't want to say cook too much, but he can definitely go in the ring as well. So that's going to be great. It gives the Mexican wrestlers a chance, and maybe it gives a chance on Andrade to refuel that feud with Ray and Ray Phoenix, and we'll see what happens. But a really good first match. And again, I find it hard to believe.
Really rich there,
huh?
The talent pool is really rich.
It's very, very rich. And these Lucha Libre superstars now, hopefully they really push Mexican wrestling and Mexican wrestlers, the luchadors here, because you've got a stacked roster of them, and it's a good problem to have, like you were saying. All right, save the best for last, Trendsetter, as far as SmackDown, because listen, there's so many ways to go about this, and we could actually literally do a whole pod on this, because this, to me, even from the start of Charlotte's return, just something seemed off. Now, listen, I am not one to judge at all about anything whatsoever, but that's just, when you look at Charlotte Flair, it's not the same Charlotte Flair. I mean, just as it's not. And she came out, and I mean, I don't know. Charlotte Flair has always been classy to me, and that just coming out like that was just like, oh, okay, that was, it was a little off. And listen, she's got an athletic body, no doubt about it, but it just did not suit her. And then you see her on a talk show, and she finally opens up about her relationship with Andrade. And obviously, listen, man, it's not easy, dude. It's not easy to have a failed marriage or talk about your, this is a successful woman who's gonna break Ric Flair's record eventually, multiple-time women's champion, and all she's had is success in WWE. And her personal life is not, and you have it out there for the world to see. And she gets mocked about it, and she was telling about how she was struggling with it. And that's not cool, and it's definitely not. And you feel for her, but I think that she's still. If I were to be honest, I still think that it's affecting her, and I still think that she needed time off. I think that maybe physically she was ready to come back, but just mentally, I just don't think that she is there. I don't see it. The physical, she looked fine in the Royal Rumble, but just mentally there, it just seems off. Why? Because Charlotte, to me, in my eyes, has never been a good promo, but this whole time with Tiffany, it's been catastrophically bad. Okay, and you take a look at that, and we talk about Dominic Mysterio heat. That's nuclear heat, where they hate your guts because they want to see you get beat up. But that heat that Charlotte Flair was getting was, get out of my ring, get out of our ring, on to the next thing, because we don't want to see you. And that's bad, Trendsetter. That's bad. And I know that I'm saying a lot here, but it's just something that I observed. And obviously, I'm going to give you time to give your observations. But she just seems flustered. And again, Charlotte Flair, when she seems like she's flustered, she'll do this crazy thing where she doesn't give a damn, and she'll just, like the whole Becky Lynch trading the belts. Obviously, she was hurt about it, or she didn't like the way that it was done. She took her emotions on the screen. Here, I don't know if Tiffany triggered it with the 0 for 3 as far as divorces, and then she went with the whole Ludwig Kaiser's in my DMs comeback, but it just all seemed bad. And Tiffany Stratton, for some reason the baby face is not working. And you mentioned it too. Sometimes it's good to have a heel run first and eventually organically grow into the face. None of this to me has worked out. And even to the point where Tiffany Stratton, all you had to do was just walk out and lift the title, hold it up high, because you won the promo basically from default because Charlotte just basically gave you nothing. And then you lift up the title and you hold it up upside down. It was a microcosm of the shit show that was this promo. Trendsetter, when you look back at this, obviously your observations are going to pale in comparison to what I just gave you, but this was bad. And I wouldn't be proud to win this promo. If you're honest with me, I would not have been proud of this.
I would have been proud to be part of that segment in general. Yeah. I mean, if there's anybody more uncomfortable was Wade Barrett in the middle of the ring, having to look at this happen in front of him and be like, what am I watching right now? This is literally a train wreck among train wrecks happening. This is if a train and a plane both crash at the same time. And we know how interesting that is because one's in the air and one's on the ground. Man, it was beyond awful. But a lot of people liked it because, it's compelling. You like to see sometimes, that disaster happen right in front of you and see what happens. But
you got them talking, got people talking about it, whether it was good or bad, right?
People were questioning, was it real? Was it a shoot? Was it? So despite how bad this buildup, and it's been really bad. Listen, if this was just on paper, if it was just Charlotte picking Tiffany Stratton and they didn't touch or speak to WrestleMania, people would be psyched for this. I really feel that. They would be psyched if there's no interaction from the point where Charlotte made her decision to WrestleMania, and that's probably would have been best, probably. Because if I'm Triple H right now, I don't have any hair, but any other hair I would have left on my beard, I would have been ripping across my face because it just seems to me my biggest thing that I take from this, and there's several things that I'll get to real quick, but the biggest thing I get from it is that everything looks good on paper at times, but when you see it, there's no chemistry, there's no timing, there's nothing there. And I'm surprised that literally there's nothing there. I compared this to another scenario that happened where Charlotte, before she got injured, was set to face Toni Storm, and people were excited because everyone was rooting for Toni Storm when she was part of WWE, wanting this match to happen because it was a fantasy match for a lot of people, Toni Storm versus Charlotte Flair. And we saw the buildup from the old regime, similar to this one now, this new regime. It was just a train wreck. It was miserable. There was no timing between the two individuals.
I don't even know what
happened in the ring together, but no timing from a promo standpoint. And basically, we hope Tiffany doesn't, pick up her ball and go home like what Toni Storm did and went to AEW. But this is the same scenario where it's just that bad that I just wish none of them ever spoke to each other. We just got the match at WrestleMania. I would have been happy with that, hoping that there would be some chemistry with them in the ring. Tiffany Stratton is not a good babyface because she doesn't come off that way. Similar, I call it the Seth Rollins effect. They're just people who are just good at one particular thing. Now, Seth has changed that because now he is a good babyface or a good in-betweener because you hate him, you love him, whatever, but you'll still cheer for him. You'll still hum his song, right? I think Tiffany wasn't going to be in that direction because as much as people wanted to see her get beat up and get what's coming to her, you still love the way she acted and the way she was this
athleticism. It was hard to root against her athleticism because she was just so good in ring.
Yeah, but also in terms of doing the one-ups on people in promos, it came natural to her. This is not natural for her. As you can tell, her stuttering. You can tell she's trying to remember lines here. It doesn't come off as authentic. And then to Charlotte's point, listen, the points you made too, in terms of she's still dealing with, a failed marriage and a divorce. She's going through probably maybe some personal things. Maybe some confidence isn't there as much as she tries to promote that.
Her ex is on the same brand. It's on the same brand too. So
yeah, but again, despite that, sometimes when you're gone for a period of time that Charlotte was, to have the confidence, can you still do this at this high level? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would be doubting themselves. I mean, we only saw at the Royal Rumble. She competed on SmackDown against BFAB, and that was basically it. So now a lot of pressure's on her. But the thing that you talked about before, where in terms of the promo, this is the thing with Charlotte that I think, again, she's a better heel than she is a babyface, because it's very hard to cheer for her with all accolades and people feeling her to be entitled and thinks that this was just, she didn't pay her dues, et cetera, et cetera. She has earned her where she is right now in terms of somebody on this roster being a star, right? But it's the same thing it's the same shtick. The queen, this, that. Give me something different. Now her wardrobe attire has changed drastically, and that has some effect on it too. But it just seems that Charlotte, I don't see Charlotte Flair when she's out there, especially this new rendition of her. You know who I see? I see Ashley. I see Ashley, a girl or a woman, respects to a woman who's out there trying to figure something out, which a lot of people would say, you're a veteran at this stage in your career, you shouldn't be figuring it out. You should know who you are.
You know what it
And
is?
she's having those problems. She's having problems with Charlotte and Ashley.
You know what it is? Yes, it's and no one's gonna get this except if you're a hockey fan. It's like it's Ashley Flair trying to find Charlotte Flair by the time she gets to WrestleMania, and she hopes that she can find her because she's reaching for her. It's like she forgot how to be a wrestler, and not in the wrestler in the ring, and just to be the persona. It's like she it's like she just forgot how to be Charlotte. That's what it looks like to me. You know, we were talking about this is a funny story too, and we're Devils fans. And then I remember there was a coaching change, and one of our favorite coaches of all time, Jack Lemire, had to come back because the team was tanking. And he basically, the first night I was like, oh, I saw so many things. It's like they forgot how to play the game. It seems like Charlotte has forgot to play the game.
I don't understand that analogy. Only you.
I know no one's gonna get it. Whatever, but it's like Charlotte's forgot how to be Charlotte Flair. You're
more specifically, it seems like she's trying to act like Charlotte rather than be that character.
Exactly. And so one last thing about Tiffany Stratton. I do believe that the promos went off the rails. I do believe that they didn't get the scripted stuff in, but it felt like she was so nervous to deliver that 0-3 line because she knows that she's looked like crap, that Charles made her look like garbage. And to her, in the eyes of the fans, she had to deliver it. And to me, she was holding that 0-3 in because from what I heard, if you look back now, they've deleted the Kaiser comments and they deleted the 0-3. So obviously that's not what was in the plan. But it went off the rails, and Tiffany was the one that went for the obviously pay the Ric Flair stuff. Obviously, that's fine. That's all open game. But the divorce, I think she was so thrown off that you see how fast she got out of the ring after she said that? She said the woo and left because Charlotte wanted to beat her bones.
She was beelining towards her.
And Charlotte got desperate. And it was like, I got to throw the thing. Kaiser, boom. And listen, that's fair game. Fine. But again, this is something where,
honesty, as much as you want to draw the line, Jeff, it's all fair game. The only problem is how you handle it and how confident you have in your abilities to counteract that. And neither one right now seems to have the ability to do that.
Yeah. So to me, it looked like Tiffany wanted to get that line in, get the hell out of there, and that's why she's thrown off. And you could tell because she was thrown off, the title upside down. That was just wow. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see when we find out the more stories about that and see where this goes. But now with everything that's going on, WWE's got to hear those boos. Do you really think that at WrestleMania, nothing's going to save Charlotte from those boos now up until WrestleMania? Is Charlotte really going to walk away the women's champion with all that? That is going to be very interesting to see what happens. How can they save it in the next few weeks?
One can only hope, though. But the thing with Charlotte, though, is, and this isn't new with her, though, is that she wears her emotions on her sleeve.
And then she doesn't know how to
don't go her way or don't go the way I wouldn't say her way goes what it's supposed to be planned. It flusters her.
Can't adapt
every single time, and this really flustered her. Whether it's an emotional thing she's dealing with right now, with all the personal issues that she's probably going through right now, whether it be lack of confidence in terms of does she feel she could physically do this again? I know she can physically do it, but to reach that level, maybe that she has in her mind, it's sad to see someone as good as Charlotte still be that emotional and to allow that to affect her. I feel bad. I do feel bad.
She's human. And first, we think of them as this because we believe that persona. She's human, but to me, she just waited for the comeback. Wait to come back with her. But I get it, man. I get the pressure to come back. They're gonna forget you, or this maybe is your sanctuary to get away from all that stuff, right? To go back, but she just is not ready. And
one last thing, to do a good promo, I'm not an expert in it, but you always want to it's not about one up and the other. It's about getting the match across for people to care about it. And,
No.
and this has just been a train wreck where it seems like one's trying to bury the
It's
other.
not about the it's not about the championship. And the funny thing is too, where Charlotte's reaching for, oh, your squeaky voice. Oh, like, oh my God, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. I did not. Oh, I can't wait to hear Jim Cornette on this. Anyways, that was SmackDown. That was a very interesting SmackDown. That obviously, I'm curious to see where that goes next week for WrestleMania. But that it's going to be interesting to hear the stories coming out of that promo too. So, SmackDown Lowdown. We know AEW Dynasty is this weekend, so we'll have something for you guys for that. We'll probably put on like some predictions and stuff like that too. But AEW's ho hum, and they're going to Dynasty, and Darby Allin's climbing Mount Everest, and all this other stuff, and they're just going about, hey, listen, we're getting 1.2 million people on Max, so la-di-da, we do whatever we want. Tony Khan's like, let's put blood in matches. We're gonna get more edgier. We're gonna put more gore in there, whatever for you guys. It's worth the risk. So obviously, I had no problem with the tack to the back, to the wood thing, that spike, whatever. He had no problem with it, and their ho hum. They're going to continue to do what they want to do, and good for them, man. Well, listen, here's the thing. Why do we lose sleep over this stuff, or why do we care so much about the ratings, or taking a jab? Hey, they're making money. They're going to make a profit this year, about 14 million. They're getting 1.2 million views combined with Max and 80 and Dynamite and all that stuff. So good for them, man. Like, if that's where you want to be and that's what you want to do, and everyone's getting paid, everyone's making money, everyone wants to do what they're going to do, then so be it, man. Like, congratulations. I applaud you guys for doing that. It's just not if you're not going to improve or try to take some advice or anything like that, then so be it. That's fine. But again, you're ho hum and you're doing stuff and you're happy with what you're doing, so be it. I mean, I like Swerve, I like the stuff, but how MJF is not a viable guy in the title scene, or is not in this Owen Cup tournament or whatever like that, I mean, it's very surprising. But just in general, though, like, hey, why should we be mad, right?
Yeah, no, that's the way I look at it right now. It's like I'm not mad or upset about it anyway. I mean, I guess the only thing that get frustrated sometimes is I just feel that, listen, I think a lot of people misconstrue it sometimes, not ourselves personally, I feel. I think when you hear other individuals talk about it and they show their frustration, it's like certain individuals or groups just want it to fail. Whether they feel there's a real war between WWE and AEW, which I don't feel that there is, but people do think there's this war. And so when you have that type of mindset, you just want the other side to fail and to be non-existent. But I think what wrestling fans tend to not understand, at least in my opinion, is that you want both promotions to succeed. You want everyone to succeed because it just gives more jobs for everyone in terms of talent to get their talents and hone their craft across to a whole bunch of different audiences out there. But for you and I, when it comes to AEW, and we saw how much the excitement was when it first started, and the potential that maybe you and I and several other people thought it was going to go in a certain direction, and it hasn't. And that's not to say it's not a success. It's a success in its own right in terms of, hey, it's getting deals. People are streaming it. People are able to watch the content on there. So if I don't like the way it's being run, or I don't like the way in terms of how they're moving and pushing their talent, hey, guys, that's part of wrestling. There are a lot of things in WWE, which you just talked about, that we don't like the direction they're going in. We don't like it. It's not a perfect world. And if it's not your cup of tea, if it's not one of your 31 flavors you like from Baskin Robbins, I'm sure Jeff loves that analogy, then go watch something else. It's really easy. So again, I don't hate AEW. I don't like the direction they're going in sometimes, or some of the things they're doing, and prefer something else different. But if I don't like it, I could just change the channel. But we talk about it because it is another viable option for people to watch. And there are a lot of people that do like it the way it is. So, hey, kudos to them.
And ask yourself this: is it really a war if Tony Khan allows Sting to present Lex Luger into the Hall of Fame? Is it really a war then? How are you going to make it into your? How is that going to stick in your minds and still think that there's a war? Let's think about that one too. And again, too, we shouldn't worry about ratings. We shouldn't worry about that. They're going to do what they're going to do and leave it ho hum. Dynasties is Sunday. Enjoy good wrestling, because if that's the wrestling you're looking for, the card is going to be good card. So obviously enjoy it and support both companies. But don't lie to yourself and keep thinking this is a war, because if Sting does induct Lex Luger into the WWE Hall of Fame, try to convince yourself there's a war then, and see what happens. Okay. NXT, they're getting ready for Stand and Deliver, and obviously you're getting a triple threat match with Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and Obafemi. He's going to defend the title in a triple threat match. We're getting ready for that, and I'm not gonna fall into the trap of the whole Booker T and Swerve Strickland feud that they've got going on. So I'm not gonna say, but look who's main eventing. Look who Shawn Michaels has entrusted in main eventing that Stand and Deliver match. Okay, all right. But the big news of the day of that whole thing is that the goddess, the lovely, the most talented female on the planet, Stephanie Vicaire, La Primera, has to relinquish the North American Championship. It makes us wondering why they took the belts off Julia, who actually came back to wrestle Trendsetter on NXT and an NXT live event. So good. I'm glad that Julia's back. Good for her. Happy to see the beautiful Madness is back, and she's obviously 100% if she's back in the ring. But the decision to take and have Stephanie Vicaire relinquish the North American Championship, yes, it makes sense because you don't want to hurt the women's division by carrying two titles, but then to try to unify them and try to be a double champion just didn't really make sense. Kind of made that matchup between Julia and Stephanie Vicaire at the end of the day kind of mean a little bit less. But the reward for Stephanie Vicaire is that she gets to choose her opponent at Stand and Deliver. And it looks like it's going to be Jordan Grace, which it's going to be a good match, and looking forward to that. But just in general, we know where they're going with the main event with the men, but just the idea of having her relinquish that title so early into the reign, does it make that match with her Julia a little bit meaningless now?
Listen, hindsight's always 20/20, Jeff, right? We can look back at it and say yes, but when you had that moment in at the theater, Madison Square Garden. I know it's not called the theater anymore, but we had it at that event there, and that crowd and that atmosphere, and the way they were building it up. Now, a lot of factors ran into it. Whether Julia was injured and she needed to relinquish the title because they maybe thought this was going to, be a prolonged injury, but now, like you said, she's wrestling at a live event, so it looks like she's fine now, or maybe it wasn't a big deal. We don't know, right? But it's only speculation. So to do that moment was amazing. And I'm sure there's justification on NXT and Shawn Michaels and that creative staff to say, we're building for the moments. It's not about, if Stephanie had lost the North American title and, if we had saved this for WrestleMania, because I had mentioned this before too. I would love to have seen this at a Stand and Deliver because it's a WrestleMania weekend with WrestleMania feel type of feeling. And I would have loved to have had that at that moment. And I always thought it was very simplistic too, as much as, people are looking at Stephanie, she's on a huge tidal wave of momentum. To me, there's still a way of protecting her, as they say, and not have it affect her momentum. So if she had defended her North American Championship and got screwed out of it, okay, you can, at least she wasn't beat clean, or at least it wasn't something that was, oh my God, they're burying her or they're killing her momentum, because you would have been like, okay, that's a justifiable reason why she was beaten, because she wasn't beaten clean, and moved on to Julia. So yeah, I mean, hindsight's 20/20. I would have preferred it to be a singles match. To relinquish the title now makes, at least myself, think, well, what was the point of it? But the way I reason it and think in terms of how they justify it was that they wanted that big, huge moment, which Stephanie had, and the crowd was going crazy. Confetti was flying. You had your moment, and now you're going to do this. So there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be a great match, her and Jordan Grace. What happens to the Women's North American Championship, it's one thing. Now the big question mark is that where does Julia fit in all this? So that was the thing, we had compared Julia and Stephanie in terms of when it all started, it was all leaning towards Julia before she got injured and she delayed her debut. But everyone was seeing her and they were thinking the WWE is going to get behind her and she's going to be the next star, bigger than Asuka, bigger than any international female star. And then in comes Stephanie Vicaire like a hurricane, like a tornado, and just steals all the momentum. Not perfect, but just steals it because everyone knows her, everyone's rooting for her, and her stories is one that people look at.
She's just more relatable.
She's more relatable than Julia right now.
Yeah. And then congratulations to Ricky Saints, who defeated Sean Spears to become the new Men's North American Champion, and then leaving him in the dust in the ground was Ethan Page, and then a significant chant by the crowd that got everybody's attention was Tony fumbled. Tony fumbled. Before we wrap up this NXT Slam Sessions, not a good week for Tony Khan because obviously those two guys have so much potential, and a lot of people are saying that Ricky Starks has found that passion again. Had a great matchup, as long as not with Ridge Holland. Uh, he's like he found that passion. And Ethan Page looks like he's been re-energized to close out the show with two AEW guys. Ouch, right?
Mm-hmm. Listen, the only thing,
Mhm.
yeah, that's all I could say. Really, basically, nothing more to add to that. But listen, the whole thing with Ricky Saints, so happy for him. It really seemed that his time in AEW was more. It felt like purgatory for him in terms of how he talks about it and how he reflects on it.
Mhm.
But ultimately, at the end, listen, we can sit here for hours and say that person blew it. That person made a mistake. They should have done this. They should have done that. Ultimately, at the end, you always hope that it works out for everyone at the end. It works out for AEW because, hey, listen, if they had considered Ricky Starks at that time a viable star or the main face of a company, then they would have put him in that direction. They didn't, and now he's here in NXT, and NXT is using him the way I feel that he and a lot of his fans would have liked to see him go, and he seems happy. He seems re-energized, and sometimes you just need a different environment. You need different areas to go to and recharge your batteries, and that's for him. So I think
And it works both ways. It works both ways.
It works both ways. You know, I'm not here to point the fingers. Tony Khan, you blew it. It just didn't work out, and now Ricky is flourishing in NXT. Kudos to him.
And WWE's fumbled too. They've had their fumble as well. Tony Storm and Swerve Strickland off the top of my head. So it works both ways. All right. So then heading into Raw, obviously the main thing here is obviously looks like Penta's going to be in a multi-man for the IC title. It looks like we get AJ Styles and Logan Paul. We'll talk about those matches when they be. Well, AJ Styles and Logan Paul are official for WrestleMania. We'll see what happens with the IC title, but looks like it'll be a fatal four-way or something like that with Dom, Finn, Braun, and Penta. So Penta is going for the IC title. Rey Fenix is having a nice little thing going on SmackDown and made his debut this week. But the main thing, obviously, that we're talking about here is John Cena and Cody Rhodes. I don't know, Trendsetter, because a lot of people say that John Cena cooked Cody. Cody got the one-ups on John Cena. People are saying that Cody had to curse. John didn't. So John's was more effective. But let's be honest, both got their jabs in, and Cody again looks like he's not backing away. He's facing John Cena straight up, looking face to face, not letting him walk away. And this was the last we're going to see John Cena till WrestleMania. So there's no physicality, no Rock. They did mention the Rock. All this, Cody again let the expletives fly on John Cena, and then John Cena delivered one of those, again, scathed promos on Cody. I'm not really concerned who won because I think they both did their job. But with no John Cena coming till WrestleMania, do you think that we have enough in that promo that we can last another 2 weeks before WrestleMania on Sunday?
I think so. I think we had enough. I think this whole build of every week when they're overseas, that was going to be, John and Cody Rhodes in the building, build anticipation. Listen, I love Cody Rhodes. I think he did a really good job. I feel the crowd's behind him. This whole scenario now with John Cena, I feel, has allowed the audience to get behind Cody again, where there are some times where I felt that maybe the crowd, not necessarily was going to get stale, but maybe it was kind of been like, you know what, the way they're building up Cody, it's more of the rah-rah guy. I want to see more authenticity from Cody instead of him always saying the right thing and always saying the classic babyface lines that you hear from time to time. Not from him, but just that you hear from time to time. So I love it from this aspect of here, of what they're going in this direction with John Cena. I think John got good shots in at Cody. When he talked about how Cody had to leave to make things better, he stayed, and whatever they gave him, he made great. I would argue with John about that. Not everything John has done is great.
And he stole Tony's money.
Yeah. But and same could be said about John too. Stole another millionaire's money too. I think Cody had a great line in terms of him being protected. But one thing I don't agree with John though is the fact that he uses the analogy, but it's effective though. But I don't agree with it. That the fact that Cody is saying the same things, and he's not saying the same things. This is more personal. He's not calling you a faker or a phony. I mean, to a certain extent because of the character, but Cody takes it more personal because he looked at John Cena as a mentor. It's similar to Randy Orton, right? And now you're against me because you feel like he's the hypocritical side of it, Jeff, that I don't think a lot of people saw. That Cody was picked to be the golden boy and he hasn't earned it and stuff like that. So that's more of the heel side of John, but it's hypocritical too because who's to say John earned it? Now, again, the work rate of John and the kind of guy he is outside of what he's done for Make-A-Wish and the promotions and the selling of the T-shirts and drawing the people in the building when he was given, chicken you-know-what and made it into chicken salad. But the thing is, everything he's accusing Cody of, people could accuse him. You can't wrestle. You haven't paid your dues. You haven't done that. So I found that pretty hypocritical and funny to the extent that I know that was where John was going. But yeah, you were chosen by a billionaire to be the golden boy. And you had help along the way too, because it wasn't for, and a lot of people have forgotten this person's name, a Chris Jericho who put you over when all was going to be done where you were going to get buried regardless. You would have had the opportunity to become the doctor of thugonomics, in my opinion. So other people had to help you along the way. So when John says that about Cody, it's like, yeah, it's hypocritical though, because people had to help Cody along the way too. So it's like, he doesn't fit your mold. Nobody fits John's mold. That's why John is unique, and he's going to be one of, they say on the Mount Rushmore of people's lists of wrestlers who have revolutionized the industry. So I think we have enough, though. I think we have enough here. I don't think Cody's been destroyed, but I did want more from Cody. So, and ending that, I feel it's been built.
I'm curious to see how John Cena is going to destroy wrestling, how he's going to ruin it. That's what I'm curious. I'm curious about how it's going to end. As long as they have me wondering that, I think we're good. Now, the question is do we see The Rock? We're going to see The Rock at Mania, I believe, whether he's going to do a run-in or something like that. I think we're going to see The Rock. Are we going to see The Rock before? There's 2 weeks to go. Are we going to see The Rock confront Cody? And is that going to be the final push? Because they're going to need that. There's always that final, the go home, right? Everyone has one. The final push to WrestleMania to get that 50,000 people in the seats, to make that final one. Are we going to see The Rock beat down Cody one more time before WrestleMania? That's what I think. What I want to know. I think we're going to see him at Mania, but will we get him before? And then the other thing is I would ask you this: Are you still? Is the reason why you're looking forward to this match because you want to know how it's going to end? Because is that what's keeping you curious, or is it just because you want to see this dream match?
No, I'm more curious because I want to see how it ends. I'll be honest. Right. It's more
I
of
don't know
what direction they go to build up this main event. If you're Cody, it's amazing because it's another person that you can defeat to more legitimize yourself and to kind of show. The company has shown that you are their guy. You're their quarterback, as they say, right? But also a way of, wow, if you're doing this now, we love Cody as champion, but we always love the chase. So if Cody were to be screwed by the final boss and John Cena, and John now he's champion, he's going to kill wrestling, this Hollywood Hogan type of thing you and I have been talking about, man, that makes it more interesting, more compelling, because now to think of a John Cena and CM Punk for the title, to see Cody now chase John and get his redemption for being screwed over Wrestlemania, if that does happen, I'm more interested in how this ends as opposed, and that's why I like the build up, because you could be like, oh, they're setting up for Cody, or John's gonna lose, or John. I could see John winning this one. That's what always makes it intriguing for me. Similar to how we talked about before, this isn't about finishing a story now. This is about where their story's going in terms of Cody and John Cena. And that's the amazing thing. That's why I love main events like this, because as we talked about with Seth, Roman, and CM Punk, a lot of different scenarios you can go with this, a lot of directions. It's not as predictable, because if it was predictable and John was going in as a babyface, then you're like, it's going to Cody, because why give it to John? He doesn't need to break the championship, the record. The potential of him breaking the record as a heel makes it more intriguing to me if they do that, and how is it going to end.
And a quick yes or no, will we see The Rock before?
I think we will see The Rock before.
All right. And then the last thing I got to say is the premise of John Cena, the reason why John Cena is so against Cody, worth the heel turn? Do you think that it's going to, do you think at the end of the day, obviously it's important because John Cena turning heel is big, but do you think at the end of the day, before we find out what happens at Mania, do you think it was worth it at the end of the day? Because it seems like, and I question this on The Rock, because Obviously, he's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. He's an icon. He's the biggest movie star ever. But it just seems that when he wants to interject himself, it's at the worst possible time, and they have to scramble and save us from The Rock, basically. So you think at the end of the day, this was worth it, turning John Cena heel in his final run, because, and again, it's a lot to get in here. It's a really quick, as we're winding down here, a really tough question to ask so late. But at the end of the day, it better. All I'm going to say this: instead of answering the question, it better be worth it. It better be worth it, because the main thing was to have Cody Rhodes turn heel, and he couldn't have done that. He was on such a roll as a babyface; it wouldn't make no sense to turn him heel. And then
Jeff, to answer that question though,
and John Cena took it as a team player and was I'll turn heel. Was it worth it? In spite of The Rock, it was a bad decision again.
Well, you say in spite of The Rock though, but it is The Rock effect, because it was building up for the fact that after WrestleMania 40, the night after WrestleMania, Rock and Cody in the ring, Rock saying down the road, this isn't over. Now, a lot of people alluded to that, there's going to be a match between the two of them, which is kind of what I want to see, because on night 1 of WrestleMania 40, The Rock pinned Cody Rhodes. So they exchanged titles on Raw. He had the People's title. The Rock had the WWE title. He said he was going to come back for this. He said it. I'm not making this up. I'm not trying to misconstrue something that might have been said that it was not interpreted to be that way, but he said he was coming for him for the WWE Championship. He said it. And then for him to go on, post press conference and say that this whole feud between him and Cody, it doesn't necessarily have to end in a match.
Yeah, well, he's the one that messed it up.
Yeah, it was more a slap to my face. And why did you say that? And now with this whole thing that Rock wasn't going to be able to perform at WrestleMania, this is why we saw John Cena turn heel, I feel. Because he needed something different, because I was going to go with the Randy Orton storyline. It wasn't going in that direction.
Was it worth it at the end of the day?
Yes, it was worth it, because if you weren't going to get Rock and Cody, then John Cena turn heel was the only thing that else would have made sense, because Triple H ain't coming out of retirement. And
for everyone that's like, oh man, Triple H is a bad booker, and man, The Rock should take over in WWE. Listen, he's great and everything like that, but he's made rash decisions. He's made rash decisions last year and this year, because in spite of The Rock, they're trying to do this. Okay, so and in spite of him, because you don't even know what his schedule's like. You don't even know if he can commit. And again, next year, when we want it, and then we're gonna be Royal Rumble. Now we have The Rock lurking somewhere. He's got to be lurking somewhere. I can fit a couple days in, and then you got to be worried about this Rock thing. It's gonna be like the Groundhog. Does The Rock, if The Rock pokes his head out, it's gonna be a turbulent WrestleMania. But if not, it's gonna be a ho-hum WrestleMania. And so I'm telling you, man, like the Rock factor is to me is also something else that's gonna be interesting to see. Does what they did, does the plan that they have, is it gonna make it worth this John Cena heel turn? And it better be. It better be, right? Because that's where you hope for it to happen, because of the scenario you've been put in, right? So listen, we also have to be accepting of the fact too that I think The Rock's days in the window of being in the ring are getting very, very small as the years go by. He said on Pat McAfee's show, everyone wanted to see Roman and Rock. That didn't come to fruition. Is there a possibility of that happening in the road? Him and Cody, Rock and Roman, I don't know. I just think right now I'm accepting of the fact that to ever think that Rock will get back in the ring is going to be very low percentage right now, because he doesn't need to get back into the ring. And if he gets back into the ring 2 years from now, he's not going to be the same he was at WrestleMania 40, which was limited at best in terms of his ability in the ring. And I'll be the first one to say it. It looks like at WrestleMania 40, he lost a step, which is why he was in the tag match to begin with, because he needed protection from that particular thing. It didn't look like he was in his best physical condition physically, but in terms of stamina and being able to do what he used to do in the ring, I think Rox notices it. He looks amazing, but in the ring, it's a different story, as we all know from people that tell us, listen, you can't just jump back in and do this. So I think we have to be accepting the fact that I don't think if we never see Rock in the ring again, it's not going to be a surprise. All right, the Rock factor in WrestleMania is we'll see if this was worth it, because, again, no Cena till Mania, and we'll see if The Rock, we'll see him before WrestleMania. Most likely we'll see him at. So it's going to be interesting. We are on the road to WrestleMania. Trendsetter, pull up that graphic, which I've wanted it so much to show your amazing artwork here. We're on the road to WrestleMania, guys, and you've been watching the High Spot podcast here on the Give Us a Shot Network. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss an episode of HSP here. And the boys here at Give Us a Shot do a tremendous job here with all other shows. So make sure you catch the rest of the tremendous shows. Great lineup for you here on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Give Us a Shot Network. And again, hit that notification bell for HSP so you don't miss a single episode as we're on the road to WrestleMania. Make sure you follow us on all our social media at High Spot Podcast. And also, to make sure, if you can't watch us, again, you can listen to us on all podcast platforms, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, everywhere you can get a podcast. You can just make sure you download HSP so you don't miss an episode of that and keep up to date to all the latest news of WrestleMania. And again, we want to interact with you, the fans. So that's why it is important that you guys make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms. We threw a couple of questions out there for you. When this episode drop, we'll definitely re-emphasize those questions for you because we want to hear your interaction, especially in the IG where you can follow us there. And make sure after Dynasty, we will maybe have a little post show, but you got to keep in tune here at HSP to all of that stuff, all the news here on all social media platforms. So definitely, that's why you got to subscribe. That's why you got to follow us. Trendsetter, it is a jam-packed show, but now we must recharge our batteries so we can give you another show. Make sure this week, though, you guys stay tuned because we have a great interview coming up with Rohizi from Remix Rumble. We had him on last year because he had the show in Philly. He had Mark Henry spinning all those wrestling themes, and he'll come back and talk about the Vegas show that he's got lined up for WrestleMania week there too. So Rohizi will come back on HSP this week, so stay tuned. That's why you got to hit that notification bell so you don't miss that episode with Rohizi coming to you this coming week. All right, Trendsetter, it's been a great show. Wrap us up. Take us home like you always do.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the High Spot Podcast for the only tag team partner that I'll ever have in my career. We're not doing the whole Marty Shawn thing here. Once this tag team partnership is over, it's over. There's no other person in line. For my tag team partner, Jeff Martin, I'm the Trendsetter, Brian Berger. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We are the Jersey Brand Crew. Remember, we do this for one reason and one reason only. As we're on the road to WrestleMania, we do this for you, the
crew.